Welcome to My Hometown, the program that explores clubs, organizations, businesses, and issues across Nassau and Suffolk counties and sheds light on the different towns that are making a difference.
Hello and welcome to My Hometown. I'm Bill Horan, along with my co-host, recent Nassau Community College graduate, Corey Kaufman, coming to you live, once again via Zoom and being socially distant as recommended.
If you're an educator, a parent, or a student, today's show is geared just for you. At least that's our hope. Get it, Bill? See what I did there?
Yes, I see what you did. Now let's tell our listeners all about Hope, as in Hope Skills Presentations, and more with its founder, Bob Wolff, who is also a college and career skills readiness trainer. Bob, welcome to My Hometown on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Good morning, Bill and Corey. It's a pleasure to be here today again in my basement, as opposed to being across from you at a desk.
There you go. First of all, Bob, and you've been on before on our show, how have you made it through this pandemic period? Has it affected you personally?
Well, thank God my wife and I and my family are all fine. But from a business perspective, it's simply a matter of more prospecting, more opening doors of opportunity through conversations with friends that you haven't talked to in a long time, and just keeping a positive mental attitude while other people are struggling doing that.
So tell us, what is Hope all about?
Well, essentially, Hope was started 21 years ago when I was working with college students, teaching them how to find interviews, how to get jobs, and how to fit into the job market. And while I was doing this, asking them some basic questions about the skills they would need to get interviews and to interview, I learned that they knew nothing about basic skills that have helped me in my life. The skills that are required to get an opportunity interview, to interview successfully, to fit into a new job, to be a good teammate when you're working in a new company. So I decided that it didn't make any sense. They should have learned these skills in high school. They should have learned them in college. So I put together a content program of 5 skills. I wrote them up, did my first presentation at St. John's University to student athletes, had a phenomenal feedback from them. And it was at that point in my life I decided I was going to stop focusing on helping businesses grow and focus my time on helping students learn a set of skills which they absolutely need all through their career in anything they do in life.
Bob, as we've said before, that's so true so many times. And just for most of us, we go to a store and we wonder why the clerk is sitting there going through receipts when we're standing at the counter. And if we stand long enough, we get annoyed and we walk out, and that's business lost for a store that's probably sent out advertisements, etc. Or maybe the phone is just answered in a way that we have no idea that we're calling Bob's Bakery or, whatever the outlet is, the restaurant or the store, because the person has never been trained how to answer a phone or deal with the public. Now, what was your career prior to starting Hope, the Students Bridge to Business and Hope Skills Presentations?
Well, very, very simply, I was a salesman. I was a sales and marketing vice president for several startup companies here on Long Island, each of which became number one. I've worked with true startups, with multi-billion-dollar international corporations. I'm a commercial voiceover actor. When I was fired from a job, I took commercial voiceover lessons in New York City and became a member of SAG-AFTRA. I've started 3 businesses of my own. One is called Sales, Marketing, and Research Trends, which was essentially a contract management consulting firm that I did for about 25 years, working with different companies to help them grow. The other one was Athletic Conditioning Products, where I was a partnership with a wonderful man, Dr. John Marshall from Special Surgery. And John and I had formed a partnership the day before he was killed flying to Lake Placid for the opening day ceremonies of the Winter Olympics. That was the biggest tragedy in my life as far as my business career. And then I started Hope, the Students Bridge to Business, to help students confidently transition from academics to employment, realizing that the schools weren't teaching them the skills that I had been helping these college graduates learn while we were working out in the gym here in Rockville Center.
Bob, I did not know this story about your business partner, and I'm certainly very sorry to hear that. On a lighter note, though, I always tell people that if and when I make it to heaven, I have the feeling that if our Lord talks to me, he's going to sound just like Bob Wolff. Well, and if I ever did a movie where I needed someone to play the Heavenly Father, you've got that role.
Well, it's funny you say that, because for the good part of my life, when I was in sales and sales marketing management, people would comment on my voice and I would poo-poo the fact that I didn't have such a unique voice at all. But when I was out of a job for a year, I said to my wife, maybe I should listen to people who've been making comments about the way I sound, and I will take lessons. And she said, you're going to be an actor? I said, no, I want to see if what people hear can be used to my benefit and to our benefit as a family. And frankly, it has very much helped me in my career.
Well, my personal belief, and I say this to all our guests, and it applies to myself and Corey and everyone with the station, we always fail to see our best qualities. And I use dancing as an example. I can't get two steps together, and if people see it, they cringe and say, sit down and eat your dessert. But if you see a good dancer at a wedding or an event or when you go to a show, what a pleasure it is. These are people who naturally have the ability. It blends with the music, and that's their great skill. But some of us have it, some of us don't, but we don't see it in ourselves. So I'm glad you recognize it, and hopefully we'll be hearing more of it. Corey?
Could you expand on what was your motivation for starting Hope?
Well, the motivation was simply the fact that I was aware of the fact that these students who were college graduates didn't know how to meet and earn support from people. They didn't know how to talk to people. This was at a time when technology was just beginning. They were very much wrapped up in technology with their computers and their tablets and their social media activities. And the fact of the matter is, they did not know how to communicate to people at all. They didn't know about making a first impression. They didn't know how to speak on the phone. They were uncomfortable talking to people in person. As a matter of fact, Maya Angelou has a quote that I use all the time when I talk to students, and it underscores the whole basis of what I do. She said, words mean more than what are set down on paper. It takes the human voice to infuse them with shades of deeper meaning. And today, we don't see kids writing on paper. We see them writing on screens and keyboards. But the fact is, they all have unique voices, Corey. The fact is they don't use them enough. They don't know how to speak. We don't teach public speaking anymore in school. So consequently, when you don't develop a skill at a young age and work hard at developing and practicing it, you feel more uncomfortable using it as you get older.
You know, Bob, it's interesting when you're talking about this because I'm just thinking of day-to-day events. And many times I'll make a comment that would engender a response. And I'll look at the other person, and when they don't respond, I don't know if, and I mean this seriously, not a joke, if they're having trouble hearing, if they just want to ignore me, if they have no interest in what I'm saying, or if they just don't have a comment to come back with. So it could range from just a innocent, well, I have no answer to that, to, hey, buzz off, I don't want to talk to you. And most times I'll just accept it as someone in passing. But if I was an angry person or someone who got insulted easily, it could lead to a confrontation, an argument. And certainly in business, you don't want that because it's going to be a loss of business rather than, increasing your bottom line, as people say.
Well, the key is, and I'll just say this simply, many years ago, Bloomberg Business did a study that I heard on the radio one morning. And the study proved that corporations were not hiring qualified applicants, meaning they were bright, they had experience, they had knowledge, because they lacked two skills. The skills they lacked in that study were communication and people. And when I heard that, I jumped off the kitchen chair and I said to my wife, I'm in the right business. The only problem is we're not dealing with that well in our educational system at all.
Well, it's so true, so true. And now tell us, I know you have 5 Hope Skills that are part of Hope Skills presentation.
Right.
Can you tell us what those 5 skills are?
I can, and they're very simple, and they build on each other. And they start with the simplest one is called first impression. And the next one is interpersonal skills. And the third one is communication skills. The fourth one is presentation skills. And the fifth one is selling skills. Now, I have changed from the term Hope Skills because in the beginning, people really didn't know what Hope Skills meant. So I've come up with a new term and identity for these 5 skills. I call them Human Interaction, Knowledge Applied Skills, or HICA, H-I-K-A, because that's what the skills are. They're human interaction, and that's what they do. They allow you to engage people and use the knowledge that you have in your association and your dealings with other people.
And like most tickets to success, these are relatively simple. You don't have to spend $900 on a TV course. You don't have to make payments for the next 6 months over something. It's learning simple skills that can take you a long, long way in the business world. And if you don't have those skills, it can get you that pink slip very quickly, because you may have just cut off a major client for the person and either hung up on them or insulted them, and you didn't even really know it. You just had never been taught the skills. So I think you're definitely in the right place at the right time.
Well, it's interesting that you make that comment, simply because MIT, which we all know is a bastion of very bright young people, MIT has a social graces tutorial where they teach all incoming freshmen 4 of the 5 skills that I've been teaching now for 21 years, through middle school to graduate school. The only skill they leave out is selling skills. And that's the one skill that is the culmination of using the other 4 to get you to the point where you're selling yourself to someone for an interview, for an opportunity, for a promotion, or something.
And Bob, for our audience, MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, those, as you said, are some of our most brilliant high school graduates and brilliant people in the world, but I think most of their work is towards science and technology. So sometimes these social skills may fall a little behind. So I think you should be on the staff there very quickly.
Well, what's interesting, the other thing I'll tell you is, and I've done a lot of research because I don't want people to think it's Bob Wolff talking about the importance of these skills, but Harvard Business Review years ago did a survey why people were being laid off, and they listed 6 reasons for that to happen. Number 4 in that list, which I will never forget, it said they had very poor interpersonal skills, and they were described many times as being brilliant people. So the ability to engage and interact with people on a personal level will never go out of style, and people is the only constant that everyone will be involved with in any kind of job and work that they have during their career.
Corey, it's back to you, but as I'm turning the questions back to you, I'm just thinking, here you are, a new graduate. This is actually perfect for you, what Bob's talking about.
Yeah. You are listening to My Hometown on the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Corey Kaufman, along with Bill Horan, and today we're talking with Bob Wolff, a college and skills readiness trainer from Rockville Center, and the founder of Hope Skills Presentations. So my next question is, why do you feel like it's important to teach students and graduates these skills in particular?
Well, as I say, the reason that these 5 skills are essential is, first of all, every student can learn and apply them, regardless of their grades, their test scores, their social, cultural, or economic background. You don't have to be an A student to have good interpersonal skills, good relationship building skills, good communication skills, but you do have to practice them. And frankly, we don't teach them, but more importantly than that, we're not really explaining to the students, such as yourself, why they're so important. And I have a lot of acronyms that I've created, Corey, over the years, and why simply means what helps you. These skills will help you open doors of opportunity, because people open doors of opportunity. Not your grades alone, not your test scores, not your degree. And as you get into the world and you realize that you're going to have 12 to 15 jobs during your career, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you'd better learn how to interact effectively with different people.
Bob, why don't people have these skills coming from home? Has there been a change over the years, or did we just not notice this before as a society?
It's a great question. We're finding that the schools have told me that students should be learning these skills at home. They have them from home. Well, with the advent of 2 working parents or a working parent, we don't see kids having dinner with their parents as often anymore. We don't see them collaborating together as a family on a Sunday dinner somewhere. We see social media and technology absorbing the time from parent and kid, so we don't have them talking with each other very much. What we look at today is we look at kids coming out of school. Kids have written to me over the years, Corey, after I give a presentation, and they're saying, I never knew these skills were that important. I never knew I had to learn to be so effective in the different ways to communicate. But I can't blame the parents for that, because society has changed with responsibilities of parents. I do look at the schools, though, and I say, there's where we should be taking the time at the very young age, even in elementary school, to talk about these skills, to make kids aware of what they are. Because by the time they get to graduate school and they don't have them, they have a major problem.
It's really sad, and they are so important. And in fact, I think one of our past guests and major promoters, Stu Leonards, has always worked on these things about how to deal with people. And they started out as a 7-person, basically, dairy barn, and now they have stores all over the local area and what we think of as supermarkets, but they think of them as very large specialty shops. Corey?
Excuse me. Where do you give Hope Skills presentations, and how do you present them?
Well, fortunately, I give them in schools. I personally deliver them in classrooms, which is the best environment because I'm close enough to a group of students to make an impact on them when I'm there. I give them at assemblies. Assemblies aren't as effective because you've got more of an opportunity for kids to be distracted with their phones and their tablets. I give them to groups and organizations like United Way Youth Build. I give them to EOC groups. I give them to parents at PTA meetings, because the opportunity for me to share, as Bill said earlier, we call these common sense skills. Well, the fact is they're not common anymore because people are not looking at them as important. Everything is about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And we've taken the A out of STEM in many of the writings. The A is for arts. And what's really intriguing is when you're involved in the arts, you're using these skills, whether it be music or writing or plays or whatever, on a consistent basis. So you're learning them through the application of them. Like any skill, you simply have to practice them. And that's what kids go when I'd walk out of a classroom, they go, well, why didn't I learn these in school when I'm talking to college kids or graduate students even? Well, it's a good question. Why aren't they learning them in school?
Before we go further, if someone is hearing this and says, gee, this is just what my husband, my wife, my son needs, how do they get in touch with you? Is there a website we should know about?
I do have a website. It's www.hopeskills.com. I'm in Rockville Center. I've got a phone number. If you'd like me to give it, I will, or you can pass it along when people would like to have it. But the opportunity for me to fill a growing skills gap between what schools teach and businesses look for is broadening every year. And it's really a problem for the kids coming out of school and the businesses who are looking for qualified applicants who have these skills.
So to parents out there, if they want to know, and I'm going to ask you to give that phone number if you don't mind, because if a parent is looking for someone to get a job, to help out with the family, or maybe a part-time or full-time job, or starting a career, this is a great opportunity. And this, right now, we're telling you, and Bob's telling you, this is the piece that's missing with a lot of people. It irritates clients, it irritates customers when you don't have it, and this is a good way to lose business. And it's very innocently done because nobody's taught you. It's not a fault. Bob can make that up. So, Bob, if someone wants to get in touch, just give us that phone number.
I'd be happy to. It's 516-639-5515.
And hopefully we'll ask you that before the end of the show. Now, when you talk about presenting in schools, are schools willing to let you come in and speak? And what level do you find that this is most helpful? Is it the middle school, high school? And I know you do this even at colleges.
Well, frankly, it started at colleges because I thought when I put this program together and had these 5 skills laid out, this is the most obvious transition point from academics to employment. College students are leaving college, they're going to look for a job. Well, I did that for a number of years, and then I was told by people in high schools, Bob, you need to come to high school because the kids need to learn that skill earlier. So I began to going to high schools. Then 6 years ago, I was talking to a group of people at an ed camp, and some teachers from middle school said, Bob, can you come to talk to our kids in middle school? And I thought, but why would I do that? They said, because these kids need to learn about these skills at a younger age. Then recently, some people have said I should bring them to elementary school. Well, let me just say this. If we're learning any skill that we're going to apply often in life, music, art, writing, athletics, whatever it may be, the younger you learn that skill, the better. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely.
So by learning a skill at a young age, there's less reluctance to try new things, to feel embarrassed and trying things you've never tried before, to take your self-consciousness and put it aside for a minute. But the reality is schools are open and schools are not. I'm fortunate that I have some principals and superintendents who have welcomed me in, realized the value of the skills for all of their students, but the majority of them are not as open at all. And they're just not willing to see the need for these skills.
Why do you think schools aren't teaching these skills to students?
I'll tell you why I'm told they're not, and then I'll give you my opinion. I'm told they don't have enough time. They have to handle mandated curriculum from the state. I'm told that they feel that the students have these skills already. They've learned them at home. I'm told that there is no way you can test for these skills. We can't test for these. These are evolving skills that happen through practice and repetition and trial and error. And lastly, we're told that colleges don't require them for admission. And it's amazing because I do a lot of college work. And when I talk to college students, I get the same feedback that I get from high school students. Why didn't I learn this earlier?
Isn't that amazing? And I guess it's common sense isn't really common if you don't have it. And some of these things we, I guess, take for granted that, gee, it's just common sense the way you would answer a phone. And I've gotten professional offices that just say hello. They don't tell me if it's a law firm or a hospital. I've gotten calls recently. They come in under a private number, and I wasn't going to answer them. And it was for a major medical facility. I don't know why they're calling on a private number rather than the facility number, but that's the way they do it. So I guess it's relatively small things, but again, if we don't know them, it's not common sense. Bob, do you do one-on-one coaching in addition if someone feels they need this and their school isn't offering it?
I do. And by the way, I don't only talk to students. I've got a lot of young adults I've worked with who are transitioning between jobs, and they lack these skills as well. They're not aware of how important the skills are. And so the opportunity for me to share something that you and I consider to be common sense, which is not common anymore, is extremely important for the benefit not only of the student and the family, but the businesses who are looking for applications with students. Right now, Corey, 85% of the hiring process is predicated upon what they are calling soft skills. And frankly, whoever decided to take these 5 skills and call them soft skills must have been off in another planet somewhere, because these are not soft in any sense of the word. They're essential foundation skills for your ability to get along with and earn support from people.
You know, Bob, you mentioned a good point, too, and I'm just going to segue a little bit into that. People who may be changing jobs now or looking for a different position or at a different position, new skills will be required. If you were what we consider kind of the accountant who works with a computer and paper and books and maybe doesn't deal with the people as opposed to a salesperson, maybe you're moving into a field, real estate sales or some other type of communication skills that are needed. Seems like a great opportunity for them to find out in one blast from you, the guy who's been there and done that, what's necessary, what has to be done. Corey?
You mentioned before that you've gotten letters from students, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe I've never learned this." Do you have any success stories? Any big people who taking your class and maybe now they're a successful business person or anything like that?
There are several people I have worked with when I started who are now teachers, who are sales managers. And one of the things, so the issue with that question, Corey, is when I'm given a chance to speak to a school in a classroom for 40 minutes, that's what I have, 40 minutes, to make the impact that I want to make on kids who are in high school, college, graduate school, or even elementary school in 40 minutes with 5 skills is extremely difficult. But to your point, Bill, earlier, every job that you have, Corey, or anyone, you will use these 5 skills. Every job. You will use a first impression, 5 ways you make a first impression, 5 ways you communicate, 4 ways you listen. What are presentation skills? And the last skill set, a middle school student on Staten Island just wrote to me after a virtual presentation I gave via Zoom at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students back in June. One student wrote and said, "Could you simply spend more time on this thing called selling skills? I don't know what it is." But Corey and Sean and Bob Wolff and Bill Horan and everyone that's listening, we are all using selling skills every single day of our life.
I absolutely believe that. And not only that, but the selling skills come from people you wouldn't think. It may be a principal, it may be a pastor, a rabbi, a priest, or just the person who comes in to fix your basement. If they're good with the selling skills, that business is probably going to be much more on the track to success than if they aren't, or if they're not aware of them. Bob,
Well,
how about parents? What kind of feedback do you get from the parents? Are they aware of the need for these skills?
They're aware of them, but they're not aware of how important they are. I've had parents at a meeting where I won't tell you the school, but I've had parents come up to me and say to me after I did my little opening presentation, my child will not make a phone call to the college to set the interview up. They want me to do it because they don't know how to talk on the phone. So the reality is, yes, parents are aware of how important they are, but as I said, there's components to each one of those skills. And many times, if the parent is not a good communicator at home, and the kid is on the tablet or the computer all day long, and there's no interaction in the house, they're not learning it from their parents by osmosis at all. So we are missing an important piece of education by having kids come out of school unable to communicate in any way of the 5 types of communication effectively.
Bob, that's really a sad commentary, because if the child in that situation, but it's a good story for the rest of us, can't call the college to talk to them, what are they going to do with that first job interview, that first client, that first customer? I think they're going to be in a very awkward situation unless they get in touch with you. And if you notice, I use that very well, because now I'm going to segue and ask you to once again give us your website and your phone number if people want to contact Bob Wolff.
I appreciate that. It's www.hopeskills.com. And the phone number is 516-639-5515.
And Bob is right here in Rockville Center. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Corey, this is important. Every student has a unique voice. Every person has a unique voice. We just have to learn how to use it and practice using it. When I took those voiceover lessons in the city to become a commercial voiceover actor, I thought I was a good speaker when I was in my mid-30s. I learned I was not. I didn't understand the different pieces of being a good communicator verbally.
We've been speaking with Bob Wolff, a college and skills readiness trainer from Rockville Center and the founder of Hope Skills Presentation. Bob, good luck to you and to your organization. Thanks so much for being with us today on My Hometown.
You're welcome, Bill. And Corey, it's a pleasure to meet you both.
I'm Bill Horan. I'm here with Corey Kaufman. Thanks for listening to this week's special edition of My Hometown.
We'd like to get your feedback on My Hometown. Send your comments to WHPC@ncc.edu. Nassau Community College, where success starts and continues. Till next time, this is Bill St. James. And remember, there's no town like your hometown.